por favor. Gracias, Alicia. Gracias.
In 1983, I was born in Bristol. At the age of 8, I moved to Newcastle upon Tyne. I now live in London, and I have lived here since 2005.
I first heard about the accident over the telephone in the northeast of England where we were living at the time, and Sam had gone on holiday to Spain with 5 or 6 friends, and they were all crossing a road when Sam was hit by a taxi. So his friend Jack rang me from the side of the road, and all I could hear was the ambulance, so obviously it was extremely difficult, and I just felt very isolated because I was such a long way away, and there were no direct flights to Malaga that evening, so we had to travel by car through the night to Manchester, and there we got a flight and really didn't know what we were going to expect when we arrived.
When I woke up from my coma, I was very confused about what was going on, because my last memory was being with my friends getting on the plane to Spain, and my next memory was a hospital full of people, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on. But I didn't have a lot of memories from that time, but I do recognise a few voices sounded familiar to me, which were obviously nurses or members of family who were talking while I was in a coma, because they say as you drift back out from your coma, memories of when you were in your deep coma still stay with you.
It's a misconception that people come out of a coma and are able to talk. In Sam's case, he had a tracheostomy, so that makes speech very difficult. So all he sort of made was a sound, and it took many, many months for him to learn to talk again. And there was a board with letters on, and he would point to the letters, tell us what he was trying to say.
I felt a bit left out after my studies, because while all my friends were off to university, I was in a wheelchair and stuck in physio every day. But I had great support from my friends who are still in Newcastle and my family, and I just concentrated on getting out of my wheelchair and getting better.
I'm a consultant neurologist and a consultant in rehabilitation medicine, and I just now deal with people with traumatic brain injuries. That's people with brain injuries as adults after road crashes and that sort of thing. There's about 1 million people a year who have an acquired brain injury in this country, which is an awful lot of people who have, unfortunately, very poor services. Brain injury can cause all sorts of problems. Some of the problems can be physical, difficulties of using the hands and the arms in a coordinated way, problems with speech, so they can have difficulty finding the right word or slurring of their speech. They can have sometimes difficulty with eyesight or hearing, so it's really any brain function can be affected. Physical problems after brain injury do usually recover, maybe not well and maybe not in everybody, but do usually improve. So people after brain injury often look quite normal, called hidden disability. And the real problems they get are that affect them in the long term and affect the family are more the cognitive problems. That's the problems of thinking. The commonest is difficulty with memory, recent memory, not memory as a child, so they can remember holidays and remember their family, but recent memory, so they have difficulty with silly day-to-day things like losing their keys, losing their wallet. They can be quite slow at learning new information, so they might have difficulty in work, getting used to doing something new or a different way.
I think in the future, one of my goals is to actually start finding a job. I'm working from Monday to Friday like a normal person. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult for me. There's a lot of jobs I can't do. However, I'm sure there's a job out there for me. I'm just looking for employers to give me a chance and maybe understand the situation and hopefully get into work that way.
They have also very common difficulties with behaviour. They can get very aggressive, they can be impulsive, they can suddenly want to do something. When they think of doing it, they just rush out and do it. They sound simple things, but they're things that make a real problem for those people and for their families. And we shouldn't forget that the families have real difficulties after brain injury as well. It's not just the brain injured person, it's their whole family.
I've always had a very good and close relationship with Sam, but obviously after an acquired brain injury, people change. And I've been asked so many times by medical people, is Sam aggressive, is he violent? Because that is often the case. But thankfully, he's quite easy, and he doesn't get angry. He's very impulsive, which he wasn't obviously before.
Sometimes parts of the brain work really well, surprisingly well. People can remember languages, for example. So the brain is very variable in what it can manage to do.
I love meeting people and talking. I love meeting people from different cultures and talking different languages. And of course, the more I practice my languages, the better they are. Although some foreign girls in London maybe could complain that I talk too much, which I think might be quite true. Although my languages aren't fluent or perfect, I managed to get by talking to different people in London, because you get a lot of cultures here. And I think I speak in roughly about 11 or 12 languages, bits and pieces. But the people from that country are always impressed with my language skills, but I don't think I'm that good. However, seeing most English people just speak English, I think maybe it's quite good.
Non mi vuoi far vedere i capelli?
Esatto, non ti vuoi, guarda. Ma di dove sei in Italia?
Sono di Rimini, che è proprio...
My dad's Arabic, but I never learned Arabic when I was young.
Dzień dobry! Dzień dobry, Piotr!
My Polish is pretty good now as well, I think. Polish people actually ask me sometimes if I'm Polish, which I sort of politely answer no, one is English, but they're very shocked sometimes. I learned German at school when I was younger, and I seem to still remember quite a bit of that. Also, I speak French quite to a good standard, and Spanish.
If you look at the research, they say that brain injured people usually plateau around the 7 years. You don't see much of an improvement. But I see improvement with Sam, and it's 13 years ago, and I still see improvements.
The average person on the street doesn't really understand brain injury, and when you approach them sometimes they think maybe you're a bit weird or something, which is a bit frustrating for me.
For brain injury, you need the acute specialist, good quality ambulance services and neurosurgeon to help you in day one to get you better and make you live. Then quickly as possible you need to go to a rehabilitation centre like this for as long as you can, as long as you need, perhaps some months, and then when you go home you need good quality community rehabilitation to keep supporting you in the long term. Some people then get better and don't need any long-term support, but an important number still need that long-term support really for life.
Without the support of my family, my mum and my sister and brother always saying, never give up, keep on going. and the love they gave me was just unbelievable. And I think if I hadn't got that support from my family, I wouldn't have recovered as well as I have.
As a mother, I obviously worry about him. I have a bit of a fear about him being hit again when he crosses the road. In the accident, he lost one of his eyes, so obviously his peripheral vision is quite affected. So that is one of my biggest worries, that he might be hit crossing the road.